Hello, everybody out there. Hello, ECD Community. Today, I'm coming back to you with another edition in English for the first time in a very long time, I must admit. But this is an edition I was very looking forward to for a long time because anyone who works in or for the fashion industry knows, or should at least know, the State of Fashion report, annual report that McKinsey Company publishes every year, I think for 5 years now, and giving a summary of the things that happened and a really pretty precise outlook to the trends to expect. It is an absolute important indicator for the whole fashion industry, at least in Europe. So today I'm absolutely pleased and honored that I'm able to welcome one of the authors of this report and associate partner of McKinsey Company here at the ECD LIVE Talks. Welcome, Felix Roelkens. Hi, Felix.
Hi, Alex.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure, that's good. So in order to get to know you a bit better, maybe for our viewers, maybe you introduce yourself and let all of us know a bit more about your work at McKinsey and especially, of course, for or within the fashion industry you are looking at.
Very happy to. So thanks for having me today. I'm Felix Roelkens. I'm part of McKinsey's Apparel, Fashion and Luxury Group. We are a dedicated group within McKinsey who is probably well known for serving a broad range of clients, amongst them also fashion clients. And we serve brands, we serve retailers, manufacturers, more the traditional world stemming from a heritage of retail stores, but then also the new kids on the block really coming from a purely digital world, and work with them on a broad range of topics, from strategy to detailed merchandise planning, sourcing, really along the value chain up until what is more and more relevant today, also topics like last mile delivery in the supply chain. I personally am working out of our Berlin office, so work a lot with clients here in Europe, across different countries, amongst them again, different brands in the real fashion space, in the broader sportswear space, among them also pure play online platforms, but also offline traditional department store retailers in different countries. So I've seen quite a different group of companies, I would claim, and seen how they differently have performed over the last years, especially now in COVID. Yeah, as you said, Alex, amongst or next to the client work, I'm also passionately writing the State of Fashion report as a co-author. Have been doing that for a couple of years now, and it's one of my highlights of the year. Last year I had the pleasure of having 2 highlights, as we also issued an extra kind of version for COVID and around COVID, around April, where we kind of really immediately wanted to address the issue head on and come out with a perspective on what we believe is happening to the industry, will happen as a result of COVID. And I think we still felt good a couple of months later about what we wrote. So I think was an interesting time because as we all probably very vividly remember still, we all didn't know what we didn't know, and we're a bit kind of learning day by day. And yeah, as kind of looking back at the last year, it's probably been one of the more turbulent ones and one of the more creative ones in terms of also what we have seen, however, coming out of the turbulences, how players have reacted and how the industry has evolved.
Yeah, we're going to have a deeper look into that for the next couple of minutes. You mentioned the State of Fashion report. Of course, I did as well. Kind of a state-of-the-art look into the industry we work in. I guess you mentioned it. 2020 was a year we've never experienced before, no matter from which perspective. And COVID is the central perspective of every kind of way regarding that situation, especially in the fashion industry. So this talk is titled Halftime Report 2021. So before we come to the halftime report and kind of see what really the development was in the past 6 months, let's take a look back to 2020 and kind of these unprecedented situation you approached there with your report and your daily work, and I guess with numbers you've never seen before. So what can you tell us a bit deeper maybe? What was the approach? What you said you did a special COVID report, and then at the end of the year you did the annual report. But how did you cope with this situation? That was really, mind-blowing in a way.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the starkest statistics that we looked at, and that I think even we who were going into it expecting the worst were a bit shocked by, was when we looked at the economic profit of the industry over the last year. And we've been looking at that kind of in each year over the last few years to see how much economic profit is the industry really creating. And economic profit is a measure that looks at kind of how much surplus above your cost of capital are you earning as a company. And when we looked at it in 2020, we actually saw a drop by 93 percentage points to a low point of 6% of economic profit versus in the index to 2010, where over the years we had, of course, a variation in there. It went up to 105 at times, went down to 50, 60 at times, but a drop to 6% really showed, I think, what went on in the industry last year. I think another interesting statistic to then look at is who did that happen to? Was that a kind of holistic problem that everyone was kind of suffering under in a similar manner? And again, here we also saw it was actually further pronouncing an effect that we have seen over the last few years already, that the fashion industry is a winner-takes-it-all industry, where the so-called, from us, so-called super winners, the companies, the top 20 companies in the industry that are driving the largest value creation, actually fared much better than the rest of the industry because of many topics that they already put in place much earlier before the crisis unfolded, be it on their distribution channels, moving to a much stronger digital footprint in certain areas, also much stronger membership programs. Now looking at the likes of Nike, that I think were very much in the spotlight of the last 12 months for actually having had the ability to still engage very closely with consumers, but also other companies on the very other end of the spectrum, like the big luxury conglomerates and the big luxury companies that actually, through having such strong brands, still managed to, even in times of COVID and very turbulent kind of spending behavior on the consumer side, fared relatively well in that period. So that we actually saw that the share of value destroyers in the industry increased to up to 60% of all the companies that actually are value destroying. If you look at the measure of economic profit, so they're not earning their cost of capital. and the small kind of group of super winners even stronger, therefore manage to drive the lion's share of the industry.
I mean, that's numbers. Who could have thought of that? No matter what might have come to a drop from 93% in 2020, that's really devastating. And a disruption in every possible way for the industry, for certain brands, for specific retailers, whatever. You mentioned the top 20 and kind of the luxury companies that kind of managed to steer through this crisis, not only steering through, but really improving, getting better, although the drop in the industry was there. But it's not only about the top 20, right? So I think all of the players that play in the digital fashion game should think about new decisions, new strategy, right? So many brands and retailers need to ramp up completely new strategies to bring their businesses back to a competitive level, I think. So what should they do? What would be the advice you would give them if you would be an advisor of such companies and not the top 20? Maybe they probably know what to do right now.
Well, I think, and maybe not dodging the question, but maybe let's start with the top 20, because I think it's interesting that if you look at them, you also see there is not that one secret sauce out there to be successful in the industry. I picked out sportswear and luxury as two segments being in there. But there's also this in the top 20, we have discount companies. We have companies that have a very strong focus on the Chinese market, or even are originally Chinese brands. We have companies that are also more in the fast fashion segment, or in the let's say even mid-market segment, but focused on fast fashion. So I think there's a lot of different business models that can help you to be successful, and a lot of strategic choices, if you really follow through with them, that can help you to be successful in the industry, even amidst big crises unfolding short term. I think now, especially to your question, also with the digital arena and the digital playing field, of course, we have seen in the last year, I think a leapfrog ahead in terms of digital penetration that was equivalent to the development of the last 10 years, roughly, in terms of how much quicker we suddenly were at digital penetration. And if we look at a lot of the consumer research that we've been doing over the last year as a company, even beyond the category of fashion, we expect not all to be fully sticky, but we expect a high stickiness in terms of digital shopping behaviors, and especially for those players that have managed to create a great digital experience, that those players will also for the future play a much stronger role in people's day-to-day life and people's day-to-day shopping missions, be it on fashion, be it on other categories, because people have actually come to realize how big the convenience is, how great the experience is. And with a lot of innovation also now happening over the last few months in that space, be it live shopping, video shopping, be it new formats of engagement around training programs online that you could follow, or tutorials, or other kind of community building elements. There has been a real focus of the companies that have fared better, not only the top 20, but the companies that have fared better on building that digital connection with their customers over the last year.
So we could assume that this is a really sustainable development once you have, and that I will bring in that word on purpose, the willingness also to kind of let this change of mindset, change of business model happen if you haven't been doing it before the crisis, which we talked about a lot here, that some of that developments that happened now real fast and were accelerated in 2020 have originally begun a lot earlier in these companies. Also the challenges and problems they faced because they weren't ready for example D2C models or stuff like that. So is that, I know that it's hard to measure in numbers, but this willingness to do it and to kind of pick up the situation, does that play a role? You said there are many categories, not only the top 20 major players, but it's throughout and it's different kind of preconditions, but some manage to do it, some not.
Absolutely. I think and I think going back to my initial statement when I said you almost saw a lot of creativity, I think there was also a large kind of feeling of coming together and accelerating those change initiatives that were ongoing already. And that is really along the value chain. This is starting from things like digital design, where companies were suddenly much more accelerating their efforts just because they had to. And it follows through really then to digital sell-in, digital selling to end consumers. I think it's fair to say that every single client that I have spoken to personally, but also I think we have spoken to over the last year in our broader consumer group, but also specifically in fashion, is of course extremely interested in the question of digital shopping. What's the right strategy? What's the right strategy, especially if you are a brand or even if you are a retailer amidst the growing kind of importance and in some countries, even I think it's fair to say growing dominance of the big platform players. How do you react to that and how do you engage with them? I think is very top of mind and is something where, however, also a much more openness, because it's the survival instinct maybe that has helped here, but much more openness on all fronts, I think, was observed over the last few months, because it's just what you need at the moment to still run your business.
I absolutely share this observation also from our point of view, kind of in the middle between brands and retailers, and we observe the same thing, that more or less, general speaking, the openness, the willingness really overrides things that maybe were hindering before that. So everyone who really wants to play this really knows that this is the time. So as we're talking of a halftime report 2021, and we had some preconditions and had some insights already, how are we doing so far in the fashion industry? I mean, it's May, June, halftime of the year. How is it going out there? What do you observe right now?
Well, I think it's very, very different depending on which company and which country you're speaking to at the moment. I think there are some pockets of hope. If you have recently seen what happened in London and the United Kingdom when stores reopened, and there was also a surge in offline retail, companies were, I think, almost fair to say, blown away by how many customers were queuing in front of their stores, and how that offline experience was coming back. At the same time, everyone is also continuing to see great traction on their online channels, and I think people have gotten used to now more to this ambiguity that we all have to live and operate in at the moment. It's almost become a bit more of the new normal in terms of their planning processes, in terms of trying to be more reactive in how you place your bets, be it on your product or on your channels, and really catering for that higher uncertainty. I think even in markets like Germany, where of course right now a lot of the stores have limited opening hours or have some restrictions in how you can shop, you see that offline has been considerably bouncing back. But again, it doesn't take away the importance and the new kind of gained focus of the online channel for all the companies to really think through how they can almost build this out as a resilience pillar for them to not only grow, but kind of almost balance out the risks in their business model. And not knowing kind of if the traffic flows will really kind of come back to the levels, the already declining levels that they were at beforehand, or will there be a certain share lost forever in a sense of traffic reduction in stores after it's kind of then a bit more normalized.
I mean, it's a complicated mixture of things that come together, but for me, it looks a bit like hope at the end of the tunnel, and every way, be it in that mix, be it offline, online. I mean, it's also 12, 30 months time to really step up and make up your mind what you want to do and how you want to do it. And I think a lot of brands and retailers did their homework in a way. So now let's take a short break from these very deep dive topics and do a little mind game if you want. So it's called Speed Lane. And I want to take you with me on a speed lane. And it's all about gut decisions. I give you 5 word pairs, contradictory word pairs, and you should really answer without using your brain.
Why?
More what your feeling says to you, and then maybe a short explanation why. You ready?
I'm ready.
You're ready. Okay. So number 1, are you a doer or a strategist?
I would hope a strategist.
That's part of your work description, right? So
I would think so, yes.
Okay, so I hope that too. I mean, it's not contradictory that the one exists without the other, not possible in a possible way, but I think if you're rather a strategist, that's what you should be. Okay, that's fine. Second one, a more private one, hip hop or punk rock?
Definitely hip hop.
So if one time we're allowed
Though I'm from Düsseldorf, and or maybe people not consider the Toten Hosen punk rock, but I have some liking for the 90s hip hop.
So this is a high time also in the west of Germany for good hip hop groups. Yeah? Okay, we got that. The another one, number 3, interesting because you're from Düsseldorf. Berlin or Munich?
Berlin. I live here. The ship has sailed.
So it's also a bit, I mean, in terms of fashion, I mean, what did say? It's a war going on, but it's there's a Munich style and there's a Berlin style in a way. So this is maybe...
I have a lot of black in my wardrobe, so I think I'm ready to dress Berlin-like on other occasions. I thought I'll just come with a bit of color today.
Okay, so next time we see you in black, all right. Number 4 would be autonomy or control?
That's an interesting one.
Yes.
Probably autonomy. I think it's more fun. I think it's just more fun. Control is maybe lets you sleep better at night, but autonomy might give you a bit more creativity, a bit more freedom to choose.
Okay, got that. And number 5 and last one, email or real life chat?
I think the real life chat is my preferred one. I think looking forward to some more real life chats again after a lot of Zooms, Google Hangouts, Microsoft Teams, to also just name a few of the brands and not be making any PR here. But real life chats, I think, coming to the realization are still worth a lot after 13 months of a lot of virtual chats.
I think
not that I'm not enjoying it, but
no, but in your industry, especially when you were traveling around and talking to brands and retailers and like being there, helping them out, that must have been a major change as well in that kind of how to communicate, right?
Yeah, it's been a major change.
A major change. So let's go back, hopefully one day. Now we go back. Thank you for that. Always a pleasure to hear a bit about the persons and also the business ideas behind that digital picture we see. I want to focus on one special thing that is kind of a major trend in our industry. It's a D2C. So we talked about a lot how you can adapt the situation or you can adopt functions that you might need to use right now or need to change your models. So is then the D2C model kind of a savior for it all as a digital model? Should all that struggle or that not struggling just go for the D2C and leave everything else behind? Is that the way?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think where I probably cannot just simply answer yes or no. I think the first question is, how do you define DTC? Yeah? I think a lot of people would probably think about DTC as I have my own shops and my own website and I sell my clothes directly. But I think with the aforementioned platforms, of course, DTC has become a different animal where you can still be very much in control of what you do and how you do it, while leveraging a different infrastructure and different assets like the big traffic that they generate, the great kind of tech backbone that they can provide, the value-added services, and still having a direct connection to your customers. Overall, you can see for sure that it's one of the big trends in the industry, an industry that was traditionally very much wholesale driven and very focused on sell-in timelines, on very strict seasonal cycles that limited kind of how people thought about product creation, very long lead times and low reactivity to market changes, is much more evolving towards a model that is DTC led. And I think both the success of a lot of players that have undergone that shift from wholesale to DTC, as well as also I think the emergence of many small DTC brands that have in some instances actually even digital only, but then also often complemented through a select but limited footprint of stores, have emerged to global players with their brand recognition and their kind of preeminence, I think is quite interesting and definitely, well, maybe not the secret sauce because there are many, let's say, interpretations on how you can then run DTC, but it's still a big trend that I think we expect to continue and to be top of mind for companies to further kind of evolve over the next years on what does DTC mean for each and every company and where should kind of also my DTC focus therefore be based on what strengths I have, what price point I operate at, in which country I'm like playing, because it might be different on who I am in Germany versus the US versus the UK versus China, and therefore what distribution channel is best suited to that who I am as a brand in that market.
Yeah, speaking of distribution channels, I want also to take a look on the other side of the game, as we could say, like on the platform side and the big players of the platform world, because out of your report, players like Asus, Farfetch UK, Zalando have consistently outperformed in 2020 and run about 35% higher in August compared to December 2019. So last year, within half a year, really rocketed it. So the question is, together with that DTC trend, is this still growing? Are these platform players also part of the solution to the struggles of the fashion retail, together with the D2C business model on brand side maybe, and then we're going into a glorious future altogether?
Well, I think it's fair to assume that they will have a critical role in that development. I think if you look at other markets that, of course, are structurally, again, completely different, but a market like China, where you see how a very mature marketplace business looks like, how the likes of Tmall and JD.com now for fashion specifically have really reached such a high penetration through offering, again, a very superior consumer experience. And not to say it's going to be the same in Europe in terms of the predominance, because the landscape is just a very different one, and historically a very different one. It's still very interesting to see. And I think it also now, looking at the last 12 months and how well those players were able to cope with the crisis, and also how they were not only able to strengthen their bonds with their end consumers, but also with their B2B partners by actually being very trustful partners to rely on to help with, let's say, stock problems on the one hand side, but also actual growth opportunities. I think they will have a bright future in being either part of the DTC strategy or being the full DTC strategy, maybe even for smaller brands that don't have the brand recognition to actually attract the same traffic on their websites. But they will play a critical role going forward, especially with, let's say, the platform model, therefore DTC model that they offer in many instances, becoming more and more relevant.
Yeah, I think that's unstoppable in a way. The question is really who's in and what's in for me, how do I play the game? And I think we had a lot of, or you mentioned a lot of ideas, what are the kind of, numbers and playgrounds that you have to look upon if you're playing that game. So before we come to the last part of our interview, I wanted to do the second little game I always do. This one is called Pick a Hero. And last week we had kind of, for the first time in an interview, somebody who didn't mention a name, just said, bring somebody interesting. Okay, so I hope you maybe have somebody for me that you would love to see in this talk, and a person who you think, well, that's really interesting to talk to, be it from a brand retailer side, be it from your own company. I'm open. So,
well, maybe a bit aspirational and far-fetched, but I'm a big follower of the development of the streetwear brand Kith and their founder Ronnie Fick, who has managed from one New York store to build a cross-industry marketing vehicle, partnering from footwear brands to sportswear to fashion brands, luxury brands, to now recently German car manufacturer BMW, and all built in an online world, in an online ecosystem, and has developed this DTC brand to a global brand, which I personally find extremely interesting and inspiring. And I think in the context of what we were just discussing,
Wow.
probably a great thought or sparings partner.
That sounds like a very interesting talk. I will try. Then maybe I invite you too. Then, because that could be of high interest then for a panel talk, because it's a kind of a global thing. Then, starting from New York and
would be a pleasure.
Would be a pleasure. So maybe coming to the last kind of checkpoint, maybe I would talk about the top themes 2021, because you mentioned some of the top topics, top themes, top trends for 2021 in the report end of 2020. It was published, and I would love to take a look at least 3 of them and see the status of it. I mean, did it play a role? Did it come differently than you expected or we expected? So I would say the first one would be, you said it's all about diminished demands. That was one of your major topics, like the fashion total spendings will go down and stuff like that. And maybe you can say a little things about that one.
Well, yes. I mean, I think you can still see it. We're not at the level of pre-COVID. The demand is still lower. You see the big global companies a bit taking a macro view and thinking about, okay, what's actually the global landscape and which countries are maybe getting back quicker through vaccination, through how they manage the crisis to the levels that we saw before. Market like China actually fared relatively well in terms of the numbers last year, and also for this year expected to be much better in terms of their development than, let's say, Europe. So definitely we see a reprioritization, therefore, of where companies focus, as well as for those companies that are maybe more local in their footprint. Not meaning kind of only operating in a city, but let's say they are more operating in the European context. Of course, still adjusting in terms of their operating model, how they work, how they resource to the new reality in terms of their marketing spend, their buying volumes, and so forth, to be in line with what the current new reality is, which is, I think, still not set, but unfolding as we speak. But it's for sure something we've seen companies react to for the first 4 months now, very, very actively.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's obvious, but it's in a way, but it's then also very interesting to really look at the numbers, because of course everybody would say that, but is it really true? So yes, we heard it is true, that is happening right now. Second one would be digital sprint as kind of a punchline, like adoption of digital formats, online experiences, and so forth. Maybe you can kind of go deeper on that a bit.
Well, I think I belabored it a bit already. It's still top of mind for everyone. I see it in our work, a lot of digital acceleration programs, helping clients to build now a very focused plan to drive and accelerate their digital efforts, not only just in this moment, but over the next 12, 24 months, thinking strategy beyond their own website on what digital should be and could be, and also thinking about digital as an interesting expansion vehicle, even outside of your own website. Again, now coming to the platform topic, in other markets, even in other geographies, because it's especially now in very important topic to find areas where you can sell your merchandise. And then the experience element is very top of mind for everyone. As I said before, consumers are very likely to stick around if they find great experiences. They're very likely to punish you and not return so easily if they didn't enjoy the experience. So it's a balance of pushing growth and capitalizing on the opportunity that is out there, while still ensuring that you give them a great experience that they will actually like as much as the offline experience or even more, and therefore make them still kind of brand loyalists for you, which you ultimately aim to achieve.
I think this is the field where there's a lot of happening right now, like a lot of also technical innovations, functions are popping up everywhere, and there will be in kind of this journey and experience. We'll see a lot more, I think. Thanks. The last one, and this also the last thing in this talk, is a saying. You said less is more. We all know that saying, but it's interesting to see the context within the fashion industry, because it's all about reducing complexity, and complexity is really an issue, and that's maybe a very interesting topic.
You can look at it twofold. You can look at it to say less is more. We see the sentiment, especially in younger consumer cohorts, that through a much more sustainable angle of looking at their shopping behaviors, actually look for products that are more enduring, products that are lasting longer, and want to also adjust their shopping behavior in that way. And that is something we saw in recent surveys that we did last year. At the same time, you also see that companies are reacting to their often excessive assortments and really looking with a fine-toothed comb, going through the assortment and looking at what is it that they really need to drive their business. Can they focus? Can they build bigger, better products that actually have a big recognition with their consumers, that are then also available, that are not out of stock, that are there in the right sizes, the right colors, which again goes back to the experience, rather than having another 100 similar versions of the same product, which are but then not available. I think it also comes back ultimately to the realization that even online, the endless aisle is there, but it's not necessarily the solution to it all, because also you could argue the limitations that you have in offline retail around space, you have in online retail around your sorting pages, and if you're on sorting page 11, the likelihood that one consumer will click through all the painful 10 pages beforehand is very unlikely. So I think that's also a bit of a realization in this whole journey, and especially in then managing inventories, managing the complexity of all your processes. It is something that a lot of companies are very actively looking into as we speak, and in the first few months we've had a lot of discussions around also with various clients.
So we can see, and this is coming to an end now, that your predictions were right. So this is what you're known for. So
I think we are well aware that sometimes they are righter than other times, and I think on those three that you picked out here, I think we see that in some shape or form we see them unfolding in the marketplace, and it's very interesting ones, because they affect the companies really along the whole value chain and how they set up, how they operate, and it's really fundamentally changing for some companies how they run their business.
Yeah, great, Felix. So I can only thank you for all these insights. This is one of these talks. I'm glad I have a lot of them, but where you come out smarter than you go in. So I hope everyone out there watching this has the same feeling about it. For me, it was very helpful also to see and to learn about the industry. So great thanks that you took the time and be with us for this 45 minutes. And I hope we could repeat this anywhere, anyhow, soon, and speak again. Cannot thank you much enough. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
So this was Felix Roelkens from McKinsey Company. with this great ECD Live insight. Thank you for watching, everybody. We're coming again next week, so tune in next Wednesday, 11 a.m., the ECD.de or the other channels you might find us. See you there. Stay tuned. Stay healthy. Goodbye.